Seraphina Vesper walked into the restaurant that night believing she was the cherished wife of billionaire Leo Vesper, but she walked out as the betrayed woman the whole world would soon be watching. Leonidas Leo Vesper was the kind of man people admired from afar. He had it all: wealth, power, and an air of effortless confidence that made him seem untouchable. He built his empire from the ground up, turning a modest tech startup into a billion-dollar corporation. His name commanded respect in business circles, and his personal life appeared just as successful. He was married to Seraphina Vesper, a woman whose grace and beauty made her the envy of many. Theirs was a storybook romance, the kind that people gushed about in high society. Together they attended glamorous galas, graced the covers of Lifestyle magazines, and were frequently seen at exclusive events. They were the perfect couple, admired by everyone who knew them. Seraphina was 7 months pregnant, carrying their first child. She had always dreamed of motherhood, and despite the changes pregnancy brought, she remained as elegant as ever. Leo, too, seemed excited about the baby, showering her with expensive gifts and promising her the best future imaginable. To the outside world, their life was a dream. Yet, behind closed doors, things had begun to shift. Leo had grown distant in recent months. His once unwavering attention toward Seraphina had started to wane. He was constantly preoccupied, his phone always in his hand, responding to messages at odd hours. He spent more time at work, often returning home late at night with vague explanations about meetings and last-minute business deals. At first, Seraphina convinced herself that it was just the stress of his growing business. But then came the little things that didn't add up: the scent of unfamiliar perfume lingering on his clothes, the sudden need for business trips that were never mentioned before, the way he avoided eye contact when she asked about his day. Her instincts told her something was wrong, but she refused to believe it. She had devoted herself to this marriage, trusting Leo completely. He had never given her a reason to doubt him before. Still, the unease in her heart wouldn't fade. It was only when one of her close friends sent her a discreet message that the reality of the situation hit her. The message was simple, but devastating. "I saw Leo at Aurelia's steakhouse. He wasn't alone. You need to see this for yourself." Seraphina's hands trembled as she stared at the words on her phone. Aurelia's Steakhouse was one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city, a place reserved for romantic evenings and important celebrations. There was no reason for Leo to be there without her. The thought of confronting him directly crossed her mind, but she hesitated. If she was wrong, she would be accusing her husband unfairly, shattering the trust between them. If she was right, however, the consequences would be far worse. She decided she needed to see the truth with her own eyes. That evening, she dressed carefully, choosing a loose but elegant dress that accommodated her pregnancy. She didn't want to stand out, didn't want to make a scene. She just wanted confirmation. The drive to the restaurant felt unbearably long, her heart pounding in her chest the entire way. Every worst-case scenario played in her mind, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to witness. As she stepped inside the dimly lit, luxurious space, she moved cautiously, scanning the tables. Her breath caught the moment she spotted Leo. He sat in a secluded corner, the glow of the candlelight illuminating his face. He was smiling, leaning slightly forward, completely absorbed in the woman sitting across from him. She was young, stunning, and unmistakably familiar. Seraphina recognized her immediately: Lyra Duval, a socialite known for her beauty and charm, but more importantly, for her history of being entangled with wealthy men. And now, she was here, with Leo, laughing softly as he reached for her hand across the table. The world around Seraphina blurred. The image before her was undeniable, yet her mind refused to process it. The man she loved, the father of her child, was sitting in a romantic setting with another woman, completely unaware that his wife had just walked in. Seraphina stood frozen at the entrance of the restaurant, her heart pounding so loudly she could hear it in her ears. The scene before her felt surreal, as if she had stepped into someone else's nightmare. Leo sat comfortably at the private table, his posture relaxed, his attention fully on the woman across from him. Lyra Duval leaned forward, her delicate fingers grazing his hand, her lips curled into a smile meant only for him. The intimacy between them was undeniable. Seraphina's stomach tightened, a wave of nausea washing over her. She instinctively placed a hand on her belly, feeling the small movements of her unborn child, a cruel reminder of the life she and Leo had built together. And yet, here he was, acting as though none of it mattered. She wanted to turn away, to leave before he could see her, but her body refused to move. Her mind raced, replaying every moment of the past few months with painful clarity. The unexplained late nights, the dismissive responses, the way he had pulled away from her touch. It all made sense now. He wasn't working late. He was with her. Lyra, the woman who had charmed her way into high society, who thrived on the attention of wealthy men. Leo wasn't just being careless. He was betraying her in the most humiliating way possible. The waiter approached their table, carrying a small, exquisitely decorated cake. He set it down gently, revealing a message written in elegant chocolate script, "To our new beginning." Lyra's eyes sparkled as she looked at Leo, her expression filled with excitement. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small gift-wrapped box, sliding it across the table. Leo accepted it with a smirk, his fingers slowly untying the ribbon. Seraphina felt like she couldn't breathe. The weight of the betrayal pressed down on her chest, suffocating her. This wasn't a fleeting affair or a meaningless distraction. This was something deeper, something planned. She realized in that moment that she had been living in a carefully constructed illusion. While she had been preparing for their child's arrival, dreaming of the future they would share as a family, Leo had been planning something else entirely. She took a step back, desperate to escape before anyone noticed her. But just as she turned, a bright flash illuminated the room. A photographer had snapped a picture of Leo and Lyra, capturing the moment in perfect clarity. The sound of the shutter clicking sent a ripple through the restaurant. Heads turned, whispers began, and in the midst of it all, Leo finally looked up. His expression shifted instantly from amusement to shock as his eyes locked onto Seraphina. For a moment, neither of them moved. The air between them was thick with tension, an unspoken battle raging in their locked gaze. Then, before Leo could react, the damage was done. The photographer had already rushed out, eager to release the scandalous image to the world. The restaurant, once filled with laughter and quiet conversation, now buzzed with murmurs. Seraphina felt every set of eyes on her, pity and curiosity, intertwining in their stares. The humiliation burned through her, and her body reacted before her mind could catch up. A sharp pain shot through her abdomen, and she gasped, gripping her stomach as she stumbled. A nearby guest reached out to steady her, concern flashing across their face. The murmurs turned into genuine worry as people realized she was pregnant. Her vision blurred, the room spinning around her. She needed to get out. She needed to breathe. But most of all, she needed to escape the overwhelming reality that her world had just crumbled before her eyes. With all the strength she had left, she forced herself to move, pushing past the onlookers and making her way toward the exit. She didn't stop until she was outside, gulping in the cold night air, trying to keep the tears from falling. But it was too late. The damage had been done. The betrayal had been witnessed by all. And by morning, the world would know. Seraphina sat in the back of her car, her hands trembling as she pressed them against her belly. The rhythmic motion of her child's kicks was the only thing grounding her, the only reminder that she had to stay strong. But the weight of what had just happened was unbearable. Her world had collapsed in a matter of minutes. The man she loved, the father of her unborn child, had been caught in the act for all to see. And by now, the story was already spreading like wildfire. The drive home was a blur. The chauffeur, sensing the tension, remained silent, offering no words of comfort. Seraphina was grateful for that. She needed to process everything without someone else's pity weighing on her. She stared out of the tinted window, watching the city lights streak past, but her mind was trapped in the restaurant, replaying every agonizing detail. The way Leo had looked at Lyra, the intimacy in their body language, the message on the cake, the gift. It was all so perfectly planned. Her thoughts spiraled further into darkness. Had he ever loved her at all? Or had she simply been a trophy, the beautiful wife he needed to maintain his pristine public image? And what about the child she carried? Had he already moved on, abandoning them before their baby had even entered the world? The betrayal cut so deeply that it physically hurt. Her chest tightened, and her breaths came in short, shallow bursts. The car pulled up to their mansion, the grand estate standing tall against the night sky. Normally, the sight of it brought comfort, a reminder of the life she had built with Leo. But tonight, it felt hollow, like a beautifully decorated prison. She stepped out, her legs weak beneath her, and made her way inside. The house was silent, but the emptiness only made her feel more alone. She headed straight to their bedroom, needing to be anywhere but in the open space of their shared home. As she entered, her eyes immediately landed on their wedding photo, perfectly framed on the nightstand. Leo was smiling, his arm wrapped around her as if he would never let her go. Seraphina picked up the frame, her fingers grazing the glass. It had all been a lie. Without thinking, she hurled it across the room, the glass shattering as it hit the floor. Her breaths were ragged as she collapsed onto the bed, exhaustion and heartbreak weighing her down. But just as she closed her eyes, her phone buzzed. She hesitated before reaching for it, already dreading what she might see. The screen lit up with dozens of notifications, messages, missed calls, news alerts, and then, at the top, the headline that made her stomach drop. Billionaire Leo Vesper caught in the act. Pregnant wife witnesses affair in public meltdown. She clicked on the article, her vision blurring as she scanned the words. The photo was already there. Leo and Lyra, caught mid-smile, hands nearly touching. Another image showed Seraphina at the restaurant's entrance, her face pale, her eyes filled with devastation. The cruel captions speculated about her reaction, some even questioning whether the stress would affect her pregnancy. It was worse than she had imagined. This wasn't just a private betrayal anymore. The entire world knew. Social media was flooded with reactions. Some sympathized with her, while others thrived on the scandal, tearing apart her marriage in real time. The reality of her situation hit her like a tidal wave. This wasn't just between her and Leo anymore. Their marriage, their unborn child, their entire life had become a spectacle. Her fingers hovered over Leo's name in her call log. She wanted answers. She wanted to scream at him, to demand to know how he could do this to her. But then she realized something. Leo hadn't called her. Not once. He hadn't even tried to explain himself. He had been caught, exposed, humiliated, and yet he hadn't reached out. That silence told her everything she needed to know. Seraphina sat motionless on the edge of the bed, the glow of her phone screen illuminating her pale face. The world had already dissected her pain, turned her heartbreak into entertainment, and yet the one person responsible for it all remained silent. Leo hadn't called. He hadn't texted. There had been no attempt to explain, no effort to fix what he had shattered. She set the phone down, her hands clenched into fists. The humiliation was unbearable, but it was the betrayal that cut the deepest. She had devoted years of her life to this man, believing in his promises, trusting in the illusion of their perfect marriage. And now, she was nothing more than another headline, A pregnant wife abandoned in the public eye. A sudden sharp pain pulsed through her abdomen, forcing her to take slow, deep breaths. The stress was taking its toll, and she knew she had to calm down for the baby's sake. She closed her eyes, trying to block out the overwhelming noise in her mind. But then the doorbell rang. The sudden sound sent a jolt through her, snapping her out of her daze. Slowly, she rose from the bed, making her way downstairs. Each step felt heavy, her body weighed down by exhaustion and heartbreak. As she approached the front door, her mind raced. Was it Leo? Had he finally come home to face what he had done? Or was it the media, hungry for a reaction? She hesitated before opening the door. But when she did, she found neither Leo nor reporters standing on the other side. Instead, a courier held out an envelope, his expression unreadable. "For Mrs. Vesper," he said, handing it over. Before she could ask any questions, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing in the doorway, the crisp white envelope burning in her hands. Her fingers trembled as she tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the words typed neatly, in black ink. She scanned the contents, her heart hammering in her chest. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't an explanation. It was a legal document, divorce papers. The world around her seemed to tilt. She gripped the door frame for support, her breath coming in short, panicked bursts. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. Leo hadn't even spoken to her, hadn't given her the chance to process anything, and yet he had already made his decision. He wasn't going to fight for their marriage. He wasn't going to fight for their family. He was discarding her like she meant nothing. A choked sob escaped her lips as she clutched the papers to her chest. She had been bracing herself for confrontation, for lies, for manipulation, but not this. Not such cold, calculated cruelty. Tears streamed down her face as she stumbled back inside, slamming the door shut behind her. Her entire body shook as she sank to the floor, her mind reeling. She had spent so long trying to be the perfect wife, trying to build a life with Leo, only to be discarded like she was replaceable. And that's when the realization hit her. This had been his plan all along. The affair wasn't a mistake. It wasn't something he had fallen into out of weakness. It was deliberate. The late nights, the secrecy, the growing distance, he had been preparing for this moment. He had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to humiliate her, to push her into the role of the heartbroken victim while he moved on without consequence. Her tears slowed as something else took their place. Anger. Leo thought he had won. He thought he had stripped her of power, reduced her to nothing more than a scandal. But he was wrong. She wouldn't let him control the narrative. She wouldn't let him walk away unscathed. He had built his empire on lies, on manipulation, on the image of a devoted husband and businessman. And now she was going to destroy that illusion. With a newfound determination, Seraphina wiped her tears away. If Leo wanted a clean escape, he wasn't going to get it. Seraphina stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. The woman looking back at her was not the same person she had been just days ago. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but something stronger had taken its place. The helplessness that had consumed her was gone. In its place was a quiet, burning resolve. Leo thought he had the upper hand. He had orchestrated his betrayal so precisely, ensuring she would be humiliated in public. He had sent those divorce papers without even speaking to her, as if she were just another business deal to close. But he had underestimated her. He had forgotten who she was before she became his wife. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling the soft movements of the child growing inside her. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about survival. She refused to let her child grow up, under the shadow of Leo's deception. He had built his empire on lies, but she was about to tear it down with the truth. Her first move was simple. She contacted the best lawyer money could buy, one who specialized in high-profile divorces and corporate takedowns. She had spent years standing beside Leo, supporting him while he built his wealth, and she knew every secret he had tried to bury. The illegal business dealings, the shell companies, the backdoor negotiations, things that, if exposed, would shatter his reputation and cost him everything. The next step was even more brutal. The world had already turned her heartbreak into a spectacle, so she decided to use that attention to her advantage. She crafted a statement, one that painted the full picture of Leo's betrayal, not just to her, but to everyone who had believed. In his carefully curated image, she timed it perfectly. Just as Leo was making his first public appearance since the scandal broke, standing at a podium, addressing reporters with his usual arrogance, her statement went live. The internet exploded within minutes. Screens behind him flashed with headlines, displaying evidence of his affair, his financial crimes, and testimonies from those who had been silenced by him in the past. Leo froze mid-sentence as cameras clicked. Reporters shouted questions and chaos erupted. His perfect world was unraveling before his eyes. His business partners began to withdraw their support. Stocks in his company plummeted, and investors scrambled to distance themselves. But Seraphina wasn't done. She had one final move left. With the evidence her lawyer gathered, she ensured Leo's financial downfall was irreversible. Not only did she secure full custody of their unborn child, but she walked away with a settlement so massive that Leo would never fully recover. Every cent he had hidden, every asset he thought was protected, it was all laid bare. His mistress, Lyra, disappeared from the public eye, unwilling to stand by a man who had lost everything. As Seraphina watched the destruction unfold from the comfort of her new home, a place free from the memories of her old life, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: peace. Leo had tried to strip her of everything, but in the end, she was the one who emerged victorious. She wasn't just the billionaire's betrayed wife. She was the woman who refused to be broken.